Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to BTP. We're with you with Dan, as always. Hey there, Dan. How's it going?
What's up, my man, buddy? How are you? Life is great. Glad to be here with you. Things are changing a little bit in the world of politics and business, especially after the coronavirus outbreak that is, affecting a lot of countries. But we are doing fine, busy, and trying our very best to go through all the crises ahead and hopefully come out stronger.
Excellent. How are you coping with all of the changes that are happening?
Well, let's be honest. This particular coronavirus epidemic is going to affect international business much more than anything else. Like this is like the number one target because it creates tremendous difficulties when it comes to shipping things, when it comes to flying around in different countries, and because of this. This is perhaps not, of course, for our business, but for a lot of like airliners and tourism industry, probably it's going to be like a nightmare. Already, a lot of airlines have reported massive losses in terms of their profits. And this is, of course, not just about airlines. I mean, many economies around the world. I was just following some news about Germany because we recently moved to Germany basically for a company in Europe. And Germany is expected to actually shrink in terms of its economic growth because of this coronavirus. China's already hurt basically severely, and we're not even sure about the future of, let's say, new releases of, let's say, iPhone and other electronics. So this is definitely going to affect the world of international business so much. But at the same time, like almost everything else, I mean, media loves to scare people. So it's not as big as people would like to make it to be, actually. And the whole coronavirus thing, like this serious, crazy disease, kills less than 2% of those who've actually been infected. And those are not your average Joe. I mean, we're talking like people who are extremely old, who have severe immune deficits. I don't know, perhaps those who have HIV or other things, or other types of people who are specifically very sensitive. So for the most people, it is nothing more than a short flu. Actually, you can recover from the corona flu much faster, ironically, than typical flus because you get it very fast, and then you also recover very fast. So it's about like 3, 4, 5 days. So, but unfortunately, that's not what the people say because it creates this. Oh my gosh, we are all going because the media loves these scenarios like, oh, the apocalypse is here, and we're all gonna die, and this virus is the new thing. But then again, that's just the media. They want to scare people so people actually start watching. So in reality, the virus isn't that dangerous. I mean, it's no longer, from my point of view, a serious health threat because it's just very contagious. It's just a very contagious form of flu. But everyone who is currently listening to us has at least once suffered from a flu, probably a few times a year, basically. So it's quite normal. It's just another disease. But the fact that it's very contagious will then create the problem for travelers, for those who work in international business. But then again, it's just about the media. People like to scare things because let's be honest, like it's the best form of escapism. Because a lot of people right now around the world, they find this to be a great hot topic to talk about. Their attention is focused on it. So it's like entertainment for the majority of the middle and the lower class. Because I mean, let's be honest, it's very fun. It's entertaining. You focus on it, right? So because of this, I don't see this as a major real health threat globally. What it really is just a major threat to international business because it creates problems. I mean, right now, a lot of airlines have fewer passengers. Many countries have basically now putting some limitations on certain countries. As of now, there are a lot of quarantines going on. Italy right now has a couple cities quarantined. China, of course, was where it all started. They have done their own quarantines basically. And there are right now a few countries in the Middle East. Iran is currently one of the major epicenters of basically the virus in the Middle East. And the U.S., fortunately, has not been affected so much. But all the experts have actually predicted that the virus will reach the U.S. at some point. It isn't a matter of if it reaches the U.S. It's a matter of when it does. But then again, still, it's just, a goddamn flu virus. So people take it too seriously, I guess. And that's the reason why it has caused some problems. The only reason is it's very, very, very contagious. That's it. Like, other than that, it's just a goddamn flu. But that's not, unfortunately, what people think about. And just like, all aspects of marketing, this is anti-marketing. This is negative marketing. So people are going to be like, oh, I don't want to travel to this country and just get a flu or something. I want to stay home. And then the media perpetuates this issue. It's like, oh, it's a very serious problem. But ultimately, it's not that big a deal. But then again, that's, the news market for you. They want to actually scare people so much to get all the viewers. So it's a very good time for the news media, very bad time for international business and tourism. But then again, it's like kind of like Ebola, it'll pass, I'm pretty sure. So for me, this issue is really just a micro issue. As you know, we've discussed micro and macro. I do not even consider basically coronavirus as an issue that I have to think about too much, because it's a very micro issue. It is not a macro issue. Most people right now are so concerned about how coronavirus will destroy their lives while they're overeating. They don't exercise very frequently. They're always stressed. They're not growing. They're not living a healthy lifestyle. They're not happy with their lives. They're not spending their time, constructively, and they're not pursuing their dreams and goals. And somehow all of a sudden they want to just forget about all of that and just focus on this one. So I'm just saying, guys, you will have a far higher health risk if you are overeating. You have a much higher health risk if you're eating fast food regularly, and if you are obese or if you have high blood pressure. You have a much, much higher, dangerous situation if you are a regular smoker, let alone chain smokers, right? I mean, smoking is linked to all sorts of cancers. And now people are just not talking about that anymore because there's this coronavirus coming up. Come on, guys. I mean, let's be honest. It's not as serious. We have much bigger problems to deal with in the modern world. Whether it is the global warming, whether it is how AI will affect us in the future. And in our personal lives, there are far worse health risks, including obesity, lack of physical activity, basically high blood pressure, smoking, over drinking. And we don't consider any of those stuff and are somehow all of a sudden focused on the coronavirus. This is the way it is. So because of this, it's definitely going to affect international business negatively. But for me personally, that is not an even issue that I think about more than a couple of minutes, because it's very micro. It is not a macro problem, because I focus on macro issues and macro threats, not micro ones.
It is fascinating because I've basically been saying what you're saying to people around me, and it's uncanny because, I do math. Numbers don't lie to you. And I didn't do the numbers today, but I've done the numbers a few weeks ago. And exactly what you're saying, 2%, less than 2% of those who are affected actually die from it. And of those are majority people who are already compromised. Their immune system are already compromised, like old people.
And those 2% won't just die with coronavirus. Those 2% will die with any type of infectious disease if they catch one. I mean, if you're an HIV patient, I'm sorry, you're HIV. You have no immune system. If your lungs are basically damaged by, let's say, chemical weapons or some sort of accidents, if you're a firefighter or something, it doesn't matter what virus you get. You get infection. If you get pneumonia, it doesn't really matter what is. If you have infections in your lungs, you are going to have serious trouble. If you're, let's say somebody above 60, 70, let's be honest. So your basically health and immune system is not as well up to par. Now, again, there are a lot of people who are in their 70s and are very healthy because of a healthy lifestyle, because they've never smoked in their lives, because they've been physically active, because they have a very happy lifestyle, they're low stress. There are many 70 and 80-year-old right now who, even if they catch the virus, the coronavirus, they will not have any problem. They'll recover in a couple of days. So ultimately, we're talking about like the 2% who are extremely compromised in terms of their health, immunity, and well-being. And of course, these guys can die with almost anything. I mean, let's be honest. I mean, there's some seriously crippled cancer patients. Well, this guy, if you push this guy too hard, he's going to die, let alone catch coronavirus. So people are looking like, but man, worldwide, 2,000 people died. Like, dude, you know the number of people that die of car accidents every single day?
Right. Yeah.
Not even just in the U.S. Forget about other countries, man. We're talking about globally 2,000 deaths. How many deaths do we have in the U.S. per day for car accidents? How many deaths because of other types of diseases, cancer, other problems, right? How many deaths because of heart attacks, man? Seriously. I mean, like, people aren't concerned. Like, they're like eating their greasy little, for example, hamburger, like, man, let me have some Coca-Cola as well, just to, get diabetes too. How thousands are dead because of this virus? Dude, millions die per year because of heart disease or because of, diabetes. And you're now focused on the coronavirus that only affects the weak people who have no immune systems or have very compromised health systems. Come on, man, let's be serious. And there was an article that said, if you are below 50 and if you have a normal health, again, you should not be like very healthy. Just if you have normal health, you're not extremely crippled, then you should not concern yourself with coronavirus whatsoever. The same way you never think about, catching a flu. As a matter of fact, most flus could be actually quite worse because when there's a time basically of coronavirus, you actually become a lot more careful. Like you wash your hands more often, all those things. So you should be a lot more concerned of your other habits basically than worrying about coronavirus. So people don't care about these things, unfortunately. What they do care about is, but listen, headline: another 5 dead. On the same day that 5 new deaths are announced in Italy, or I don't know, in Iran or in China or somewhere else, in the same day there are probably hundreds of deaths that are not reported because of car accidents, because of, I don't know, other health issues, because of mugging, because of murder. And people don't care about these things. They care about those 5 deaths. And this ultimately comes down to one thing, and that is lack of understanding of statistics and how statistics actually work. Guys, less than 1% chance of death. I mean, just write a look at just go on Google and say the statistics of death rates. I mean, you're going to see that less than 2% is just stupid, man. Like literally, it just makes no sense. But then again, it's all about the media. They got to scare people about this thing the same way they scare people, about Ebola, the same way they do it for almost anything, because they want to attract the viewers. I mean, let's be honest. You scare people, you get them to pay attention. You scare them, you get them to pay attention. Now, I'm not saying that this is not going to affect, let's say, my business, because it certainly does, because I work in a national business and I want to fly between countries. But does it necessarily mean that it's a serious problem? No, it is not. It is really not, man. It's just not. But unfortunately, tend to exaggerate about, oh my gosh, the end of the world is here. Dude, the end of the world is when you start having hamburgers 4 times a fucking week. That's a far worse problem. And especially if you don't go to the gym either. Like, come on, man, seriously. Step up your game.
Yeah, and I always preface this with saying that, first of all, I'm not a biologist or a doctor. I have no idea what I'm talking about in that realm, but I do numbers, and numbers don't lie to you, and that's what I'm doing. And also, I do preface all of this with saying it doesn't mean that we don't need to be healthy and wash our hands, what have you. Do that, do all of those things, but don't cripple your life because of it. And also, another fact, you mentioned common flu. Well, it's pretty common during the winter season. That people think that is not fatal. There are so many people dying on a yearly basis from flu, and nobody seems to be worried about that. And people stop vaccination too. So who knows?
I see exactly. And the thing is this, basically, I think it's going to create some problems for a lot of people in this regard. And I guess that's a serious issue, because when you think about this, it's just, from my point of view, nothing more than the way our psychologies are shaped as a species, basically. And that's going to create another major issue, because, I mean, come on, man, this is a serious problem. So I guess today in this program, we can actually help our listeners to understand, this issue and find ways to actually cope with it and not be panicked. I mean, people are panicking, man. And I think it's the responsibility of guys like you and I to let them guys know this is not as serious as you think it is, guys. Seriously, it's just not. A disease that is extremely contagious does not make it dangerous. It just makes it more contagious. And it's true. I mean, nobody likes to catch a flu. Nobody likes to feel, I don't know, fatigued and have a couple of fevers for a couple of days. Nobody likes that, I guess, right? Nobody enjoys that. But at the same time, if you want to, literally be obsessed and extremely afraid and somehow lay in the corner oh my gosh, the virus is here. It's like the T-virus in Resident Evil. The zombies are going to come and I'm going to catch it. And everyone around me is like a zombie that if I get close to, boom, they're going to bite me and I get the T-virus. And I'll be a zombie like them. Guys, please grow up. this is not a movie. This is the real world. And if we know what it is, if we understand it, then we will be able to, handle this issue and not panic so much and know basically that this, like many other issues, will pass.
Yeah, I'm actually looking at numbers, and I'll give you a little bit more specific statistics. But okay, so let's talk about contagious ideas in general, including coronavirus. So sometimes contagious ideas can be good ideas, and that's what we are trying to achieve with the podcast, perhaps. And a lot of other people are doing so. But a lot of times, this is very dangerous. Like we have had the issue with, for example, Trump, and people keep talking about Trump and can't stop talking about him. Now we have coronavirus. So what is it with contagious ideas, good or bad?
Well, generally speaking, I mean, almost anything in the modern world right now, we are living in a world where anything that is a source of threat in any way can just spread like wildfire, right? Because we are in a world of social media. And in the past, we all had to, I don't know, perhaps 20, 30 years ago, we had to sit behind our TVs and watch the news a few times a day to see what's going on. But nowadays, that's not the case. Not only we can access news immediately, we are participants in that news. We can actually go on Twitter, we can go on social media and start spreading rumors. Oh my gosh, this is the issue, this is the problem. So because of the fact that our world today is extremely interconnected, we are going to see that any issue that hits the social media on a massive scale will then create this whole, problem. Trump, as another example, this guy is a great mastermind when it comes to using Twitter and social media. He's been using it for many years now, and that's why he had to just spread out basically. And the same thing applies to coronavirus. It's really nothing more than basically your ability to understand that just because some ideas are becoming extremely popular and just spread like wildfire, it doesn't mean they're necessarily true. I mean, this is human nature. Anything can spread like wildfire, and people can start believing it. I mean, think of the history right now, Poujix. Have we had historical periods where people believed in something wrong that is now proven by science to be wrong on a massive scale? I'm sure you all know that. I mean, we all know that at some period throughout history, people believed that, Earth is flat. People just believe that, right? And now it's proven that it's not true, but people did believe in that. So just because an idea becomes popular, it doesn't make it true. That's the, darn issue. Just because people aren't saying like coronavirus is a real threat. Now, if everybody around you start panicking and everybody around you start basically believing that you panic too. Let me give you a great example. One of my friends, he was telling a story, and he was in Honolulu, and he was having a good time, vacation, Hawaii. I mean, everybody likes to do that, right? And usually, one of the problems with Hawaii is the frequent number of basically floods as well as major tornadoes that sometimes hit the place. And one day, he was basically sleeping there in the morning, and boom, something starts shaking. There's like a middle earthquake, and kind of this water starts moving around, and people literally start panicking. So he actually goes out immediately because he feels like, oh my gosh, the room is shaking. He goes towards the sea to see if, I don't know, there's going to be some major problem or something. And he goes out, and the earthquake starts, happening. He goes out, and then after about a few seconds, it stops. Everybody panics and looks out of the window. And then nothing happens. Everybody's silent. So people look around. You see, people are always looking around them to find out what is the right thing to do, right? So people open their windows, look at the beach to see if, I don't know, there's going to be any major problem. There's no major problem. So everybody look around. Left, right. Everybody's in their apartments. Nobody's screaming. Nobody's shouting. Everything is silent. Guess what? They close the windows and go back to sleep. Nothing happened. Dude, do you understand how risky that behavior is? If this happened to me, I'd be out of that place immediately, right? Now, that is a lot more dangerous than a coronavirus, because if that hits, if the shit hits the fan in that case, these guys are going to really die, man. But guess what? Since nobody's panicking, nobody cares, everybody goes back to sleep, and they sleep until this, afternoon, and everything's fine, right? Now, imagine in that situation, my friend wanted to play a trick. Just imagine. So he would grab 3 or 4 of his friends, and he would run towards the beach. And then these guys, they're pranksters. They're putting on YouTube or something, right? So they start recording for a YouTube video, and about 6, 7, 8 people start shouting, "Oh, guys, it's coming! Run, run!" Guess what happens? Chaos will follow. Everybody panic. Oh my gosh, it's coming! And this spreads very quickly, and everybody's going to start running and panicking, and maybe in that case, something will happen. Now, I'm glad that my friend did not try to play a prank at that time, but if he did, the result would be the same. Everybody would panic, and they would escape and run out of that place, even though it was not any different than the situation is the same right here, right? It's the exact same thing. An earthquake happens early morning near the beach area, Honolulu, and that's it. There is no real threat here, right? This is the exact same situation. But the way people respond to it will then determine how we feel. So if everybody is silent out of their window looking at the ocean and there's nothing happening, after a few seconds, everybody goes back to sleep. Now, if there's somebody who starts panicking, now everybody starts panicking, right? And this is just human nature because we are socially triggered this way. It's part of our nature. We can't do anything about it, which is exactly why we have to be very careful. Whenever we find ourselves in such situations, be it coronavirus, Ebola, Trump, fascism, nationalism, I don't know, China's out to get our jobs, or China's out to give us the virus, or the Russians are all criminals, they want to kill Americans, or Americans want to kill Russians. Like, whenever these things happen, we need to take a step back. Dude, listen, is this a fact? Or am I responding to this because a lot of people believe in it? Because it doesn't matter how many people believe in a wrong idea or a wrong belief. It's still wrong. But unfortunately, we are not designed in a way to believe in that. So if you see everybody wearing a mask, even though it's proven that it does not necessarily reduce the odds of catching the virus that much, actually having gloves is a lot more important than having a mask. But the point is, you do the same thing. It's just human nature. We learn socially. It's our nature. And because of this, unfortunately, we have this issue, and it's so easy to spread panic among people if there are only a few handful of people who can actually spread that fear. And then, boom, it grows like literally, like it's just going to be crazy, actually.
Very interesting. Now I'm going to give you some numbers and you can comment on them. So I've been crunching some numbers super quickly based on the updated database. And so of all the cases, we had like all over the world that are confirmed. Of people, who got the virus, 3% died overall. 40% recovered. Nobody talks about that. And
exactly.
The rest are and the rest are still active cases. And of the active cases, 82% are in mild condition, meaning extremely unlikely anything happens. And globally, we have a 2%, like outside of, say, China, or on average, 2% chance of more fatality. For instance, in Wuhan, it was 4.9%.
chance.
Yes. Of the people who got the virus. It's not to say what is the chance of getting the virus.
For those who haven't gotten it, right? You see, that's the thing. That's the thing, because people don't look at that 40% already recovered. You know that 40% what that means? Or like, these guys caught the virus, probably they got pretty scared too. I mean, the media just did a good job of scaring them. And these guys probably were panicking and like, oh my gosh, I got the virus, all those things. And now they're back home. They're playing FIFA at home right now. Nobody talks about that. Nobody talks about the 50% who have mild symptoms. What does that mean? A little bit of fever. Okay, sorry, you're not going to have sex for 2 nights with your wife. Sorry about that. Just stay positive, man. Just wait it out a little bit. So fucking what? That's the issue, you see. People are exaggerating the problems. They focus on that 2% death, which, by the way, I mean, you should go through, there were a lot of factors age-wise. The majority of those 2%, again, as you can imagine that, were above 60. And not your typical healthy. I mean, Grant Cardone is also 65. But if that guy catches the virus, you better believe the virus is going to run away. Like, oh, I'm not going to stay around this guy. This guy's a redneck, man. This guy's energetic. All right. So we're talking about like people who are above 60, who have not lived a healthy lifestyle, who are not physically active, who probably are very stressed or have other preconditions. And boom, from those 2% passed away. Now, that's not a good thing. We love everyone. We want everybody to survive. But, dude, look at the statistics. Now, what are the odds of you dying when you're crossing the intersection in your street, right? What, 20% or something? I mean, how about driving? How about driving, above the speed limit, right? How about a lot of these factors? Nobody cares about that. Nobody's going to say 40%. I mean, it's not in the interest of CNN or, I don't know, Fox News or BBC or Reuters or Guardian to say 40% of all cases of coronavirus have recovered. That's in no one's interest, because it's like, oh, good, it's safe, man, let's go. Because they're not going to keep tuning in to watch other shitty programs of Reuters or BBC or CNN or Fox to continue talking about that crap. Because, all right, case closed, 40% recovered, 50% mild symptoms, 2% dead. All right, so I don't have to worry about this, man. No, don't say that, guys. Don't say that. Focus. Another 5 deaths today. And, let's check the program, man. Another 5 people died. And this is unfortunately what we are seeing right now, because that's going to make these guys panic. And more importantly, I mentioned earlier, attention equals money. And usually money in a much better way because cash could actually lose its value. But if you have a solid base of fans, you will just keep making more money, because you can have cash in your hand today, or stocks or shares, and tomorrow you could actually, it'll be devalued. But attention, that's worth more than money. Guess what? This is a time for BBC and Reuters and CNN and all these organizations to start making money. And there are, of course, some rumors that this was an act of, I don't know, bioterrorism by some country to create, spread fear or something. I don't know about those things because it cannot be proven. It's like hokum pokum, like, we'll see about that. But generally speaking, I think that people are just exaggerating so much. No one, I don't know about you, Poujix, but I have not seen a single headline telling me that 40% of those who caught the virus have already recovered back home and will never catch corona ever again. Nobody talks about that, man. Nobody. Yeah. Mm-hmm. I haven't checked that. I'm seeing the headlines all the time because, I got a flight soon to Russia. And I have not seen a single thing. But guess what? People don't care because it's not in the interest of the media for people to know that information. So then what? So they're going to tune out of our channel and going to watch something else? Oh, you better bet. The smart ones will do exactly that. But the problem is, a lot of us, unfortunately, do not have the chance to actually find out the real information.
Very good. Now, I have some data comparing coronavirus to some other popular, by popular I mean famous viruses of the past. So, for example, SARS had a 9.6% of death rates and mortality rate, and MERS had 34% of mortality rate. Yeah,
can you believe that?
Yeah, well, that one was bad.
30%. This is less than 2. Unbelievable. Yeah,
and for people under 50 for coronavirus, there is 0.2% chance of mortality. So
listen, guys, listen, Poujix, please say that one more time for all of our listeners.
So for people under 50 years of age, the mortality rate, death rate is 0.2%, meaning
0.2. This means you have a higher chance. Yeah. You have a higher chance of dying by accidentally pressing too much when you pick your nose and you start bleeding from the your nose starts bleeding than you do have of catching coronavirus. Like literally. So stop picking your nose. By the way, if anybody out there picks their nose in public, it's just not appropriate, really. It's just, come on. I see this a lot in some of the European countries that I travel to. Come on, guys. Serious. Just don't pick your nose publicly. And yes, if you pick your nose in a very harsh way that your nose starts bleeding, you have a higher chance of dying from picking your goddamn nose than catching the coronavirus if you're below 50. But then again, don't wait for CNN, BBC, Fox News, and all the crap. I'm not on the side of any one media. They're all basically fake news, basically, from my point of view. Not just, CNN. Trump says CNN's all fake news, but it's all of that's bullshit, right? Media is biased, all of them. None of these media are going to tell you about any of these things. They're going to just scare you, man. 2% or something was it?
0. So 2 out of 1,000.
Thank you very much. 2 out of 1,000 people below the age of 50 can die of this. 2 out. I have nothing else to say, basically. Like literally.
Yeah. No, that's very interesting. Again, look at the numbers. I'm not interpreting. I'm just saying these are the numbers, and I want to preface all of this with it doesn't mean it's very contagious. Like I have numbers for how contagious it is. It is slightly more contagious than flu virus, which we all are familiar with, and part of the reason is that we have vaccine for flu. I would believe because we can prevent a lot, but we don't have anything, at least for now, for coronavirus. So probably higher chance of being contagious. Now, I want to also say that, again, we're no experts. We're just reading the numbers that the experts provided. And the CNNs and the BBCs, and I don't want to name specifically all the news medias, are doing the same thing. They're not experts. Sometimes they bring quote-unquote experts. I don't know their credentials, but basically they're interpreting the numbers the way they want. And,
absolutely.
Yeah. And at the end of the day, this is actually quite fascinating, and we may have a longer episode at some point talking about the idea of contagious ideas, because it's very powerful if you think about it, for positive and negative. Negative, this could be one case of it. Yeah,
it is for propaganda, exactly.
Yeah. No, but also on the positive side, which we didn't talk about because of the time sensitivity of this matter, which we will talk about in the future, how you can use the contagious idea. Like we briefly talked about this in bits and pieces, but if you put yourself amongst people who are motivated, among people who are doing stuff, and you get that quote unquote virus of doing stuff and being productive. So it has a similar characteristic, but in a positive manner. Yeah, we will definitely spend more time talking about that in the future. But because we are coming to the end of our show, do you have anything to wrap up the show for?
Well, first of all, Poujix, what a great topic that you chose today. And it's very good that we, at this time, sort of cover this issue because, unfortunately, most of our listeners are now tuned into news channels and they are getting all the feed on Twitter and they're all scared. Oh, another 10 deaths during the same period that another 10 deaths of coronavirus are reported. Probably thousands, maybe tens of thousands have died during the exact same period of many other issues that are far worse and far more dangerous than coronavirus, many of which could actually be prevented, right? But unfortunately, that's not what the media does. The media is designed to get you to get scared because if you are scared, you will not spend your time playing with your kids. You will not spend your time reading a book. You will not spend your time working, doing something productive or meditating or anything. You instead spend that time watching their garbage TV and garbage coverage with their fake freaking experts who tell you, you need to be scared. And that's only going to make you less happy. And the Beyond the Present podcast, we focus so much on success and happiness. And if you really want both, you got to understand that just tune out of this goddamn media, man. Seriously. And understand that the issue of coronavirus, while it will definitely affect international travel, because all governments are responsible to keep their image. And the governments who fail to do so will then be blamed for the virus. And most governments that are smart, they will not do that. So just because, I don't know, the U.S. has blocked all, basically, flights to China, from China and to China, it doesn't mean that it's because the virus is so dangerous. It means that the U.S. government simply doesn't want people to say, "Oh, see, man, I got a runny nose. Fuck you, Trump." And they don't want people to get upset about and they don't want people to be blamed here, right? So they do this not because it's dangerous for the virus to get in, but because this allows the government to say, like, guys, sorry, I don't know, you got the virus. I blocked the borders. What else should I do, man? I'm also working on an antidote or some vaccine. So any governments to keep their image, they can do two things: block the borders or stop the flights, and simultaneously work on improving healthcare. And that's what they do to boost their image for their people. But understand, just because some flights have been canceled or some borders have been shut down, that doesn't mean it's because the problem is serious. It means the governments actually don't want to take responsibility for this issue, and they don't want to be blamed for any possible thing. And from my point of view, they're doing the logical thing. Now, this is definitely going to hurt a lot of people who work in, let's say, traveling industry, who work in airline industries or international business. But governments don't give a shit because they only want your tax anyways. I mean, let's be honest. When was the last time government did something useful for you, right? And as you know me, I'm a fan of minimum intervention by the government. But the point is, governments aren't doing that because it's dangerous, nor do they do that because they care about you. If they really cared about you, they wouldn't say, like, pay half of your money as taxes. Let's be honest, man. They wouldn't say, like, trade half of you. How much disease and problem can you have by overworking and then having to spend half of your income, 40% of your income for the government, right? So the government no government, because I work internationally, no government really cares that much about their own people, man. I mean, whether you're talking about the United States, whether you're talking about, Russia, whether you're talking about the European Union, whether you're talking about even Canada. I'm sure that guy's very nice, but I mean, come on, the tax rate is crazy in Canada. So why don't we talk about a healthier life balance in Canada so people don't have to pay, work so much to pay all the taxes, right? But the point is, governments have to keep their image. And for that, they will do things like closing the borders and promising that it's all going to be okay. Fact of the matter is, the virus isn't that serious. And the reason that these blockages and these limitations have occurred is because governments don't want to take responsibility. They don't want to be blamed for anything. And if I was a government, probably I would have done the same thing, because it would, I don't want all these emails like, "Oh, listen, you opened the border and we got the virus." Like, "Oh, yes, because of me." Okay, no problem. So they do these things not to take any responsibility. And at the same time, they do this to somehow satisfy their citizens. But that doesn't mean it's a serious problem, dude. It's not. The coronavirus is not a serious problem. And if you think it is, then you have a real problem. And the problem is, I'm sorry, you are extremely naive. And your naivete can cause you a lot worse problems in the future. This means that you probably are easily influenced by the media. This probably means you don't read very much. This means you do not have good contact with statistics and numbers. You don't have good critical thinking, and you probably don't have good emotional intelligence, which easily allows you to be manipulated for the rest of your life by the media and people around you. Dude, you got a much bigger problem than coronavirus. It's much bigger. So instead of all of these things, start working on yourself and understand that what you hear in the media and what others are all around you, oh man, that guy's just used the gel. Oh my gosh, she's also wearing the mask. Oh my gosh. This is just a bunch of BS, and it only makes things worse for you. So please grow up, start reading. If you already caught the virus, don't worry. You're going to recover in a couple of days, especially if you're below 50. If you caught the virus and you're above 50, maybe 60 or 70, also don't worry so much, because the mortality rate among the elderly is not as high as the media wants to say it. And above all, let this be a great opportunity for you to start taking care of your health. Why do you want your immune system to be compromised because of all the stress? So reduce and cut back on the stressors in your life. Why aren't you moving so much? Why are you overweight so that your body cannot fight the disease so well? Why don't you start, jogging more often, or join the gym and start becoming a member and just go there 3 or 4 times a week? Why don't you try to start eating healthier and actually do drink more water so that your body is hydrated more often and have also more energy? And these are the things. So let this situation, as Poujix mentioned, be a good opportunity for us to start living healthier. And please stop just worrying about this crap. It's not as important. You have far bigger problems. And if you are really worried about this problem, then you have a much bigger problem. That's yourself, the way you think. And you got to work on that. And hopefully if you do so, life will be a lot better for all of us.
Awesome. Now, this is going to be like completely anecdotal. It's not important, but male death rate seems to be quite higher than female death rate. That's an interesting anecdote. Now, we're gonna
among all the 2%, the guy's gonna go first. I know. But in reality, mortality and also even life expectancy is higher in women than men. Let's be honest. Like,
sure,
women live 10 years longer than men. It's just normal. These are just statistics that play around.
Yeah, and so actually I want to mention that all of these numbers are sensitive to the time of the recording, so these may change, and we're gonna put the link to this. I did some of the numbers myself. It wasn't all on the website, but the website is quite complete. It has all kinds of numbers, and you can crunch them yourselves, but you have to really pay attention to the context of these numbers as well. So please be advised about that. But we'll definitely put the link up. You take a look at it yourself, make of it what you will. And thank you, Dan, for being with us and talking about this matter. And thank you.
Always.
Yeah, it's always great. Hopefully in the future we can talk about more interesting topics. Like this is interesting too, but more on a positive note. And to all you listeners, thank you for tuning in. As always, stay safe, stay happy, stay healthy in general, not about this particular virus. And until a later episode, have a good one.